If you have a true scary story you'd like to send into the show, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. Or email it to me at astheravendreams@gmail.com. Hi, Raven. Greetings from Sweden. Hello. I'm a big fan. I binged your stories for weeks when I first came across them, and I really appreciate the sense of community you've created. Thank you for that. Thank you kindly. What I'm about to share is something that happened to me a couple of years ago, and to this day I still can't explain it. It started at a spiritual festival. One evening, I joined a fire ceremony where each participant was supposed to place a log into the fire, along with a wish or intention. Not long after I placed my log, a glowing ember, a pretty large one, suddenly jumped from the fire. It traveled surprisingly far for a stray ember landing directly in my lap, right on top of a crumpled up base layer shirt that I had over my legs. It was a synthetic shirt from H&M, the kind that will melt and burn when touched by fire. The ember burned an irregular, jagged hole into the fabric, right at the spot over my right elbow. I remember looking at it and feeling this strange, unshakable thought. This means something. I don't know what or why, but the feeling stayed with me. I wore that shirt for months, always slightly annoyed by the little burn mark. Eventually, I decided to replace it. I bought a new shirt from H&M, almost identical to the first one. About a week later, I was outside with a friend one cold November night in Sweden. We were sharing a joint and talking quietly. I was wearing my new shirt as a base layer, with a hoodie over it, the cuffs tied around my wrist, and a coat on top. Out of nowhere, I felt a sharp, intense burn right at my right elbow. I yelped and grabbed my arm, blurting out that it felt like a bee sting, which didn't make sense at all. It was night, in late autumn and freezing cold. We didn't check it right then, it was too dark and too cold, but I told myself I would look at it when we went inside. But I completely forgot. A few days later, I was brushing my teeth and caught my reflection in the mirror. My right elbow caught my eye. There was a hole in my shirt. The new shirt. The exact spot as before. I froze. My head started spinning, and I felt like I was losing my mind. I yanked the shirt off and saw that it was a small, jagged burn hole. I grabbed the old shirt from my closet and laid them side by side. Same type of fabric damage, same location. I tried to reason it out. The only explanation I could think of was that maybe a piece of ember from the joint had somehow slipped onto my sleeve, rolled down my elbow and burned the fabric, but the hoodie's cuff was tight. I had a coat covering it, and there was no burn marks at all on either of those layers. I still don't know how it happened. All I know is that I have two shirts nearly identical, each marked with the burn hole in exactly the same place. I've kept them both. Sometimes I look at the matching burn marks and wonder if the universe was trying to tell me something, but to this day, I still don't know what. A warm greetings, Raven. It's Van. Hello. This time around, I come to you with 3 more bite-sized glitch-like encounters, both fairly more recent than my prophetic dream story you read the other day. The first one that happened was about a year and a half ago, more or less. Time sure flies. Anyway, for some context, I had just begun studying at a culinary school, fairly far away from home, so I had to go live in an apartment. Still here, in fact. I was kind of disappointed when the place wasn't haunted or anything. Nothing really excites nowadays. That being said, like a week after moving, I did notice something strange. Something I'm kind of certain I would have noticed had it been there before, but just beside the bathroom door of my apartment, there appeared a footprint, marked dark on the paint of the wall. I thought it was just dirt at first, but I've tried to wash it off, and it just won't come off. The scary part is that later I did measure it against my foot, and it's almost a 1-to-1 replica. The issue is, I never placed my foot on that wall at all that first week. Even when I did later on to measure it against my foot did not leave any kind of residue on the wall at all. Unlike that strange footstep on the wall. I suspected that I may have done it while sleepwalking, but the footprint is quite high up. It's so high up that it took me quite a bit of effort to place my foot on it to measure. And you probably know how people, while sleepwalking, are slouchy and lethargic. Given the sleepwalking version of you doesn't want to accidentally wake you up. So, I really don't think that would have been something I could have done while sleepwalking. In any case, that's the more tamer glitch that I got today. The next two are a bit more supernatural in nature. About a month after I moved into my apartment, I realized I needed proper kitchen utensils. Of course, I have my culinary school knives, but I can't quite stir-fry with a knife on a wok. So, I went to the supermarket to buy some. And this is where the strangeness comes in. I was on a completely unrelated aisle. I don't remember which aisle it was, just that it was not the kitchen utensils aisle. You know how supermarket gondolas have those metal shelves, right? Where the goods rest waiting for someone to pick them up? Well, on the bottommost shelf, imagine my surprise as when I was walking by, a spatula just materializes. But, of course, not on top of the other products. It somehow materializes on the bottom of the second lowest metal shelf, as if it was magnetically attached to the bottom of the second lowest shelf, waiting for me to walk by and drop on top of the goods down below. But thing is, when I went to inspect the bottom of said shelf, I couldn't see how that metal spatula could have been wedged in there to be stuck there, or how it could have fallen, if it indeed had been stuck there. The poor store people were looking at me like I was crazy when I told them what happened. I don't blame them, but they could have at least entertained my thought. I wasn't doing too well mentally at the time. Random strangers at the culinary school asking how my experience was today. Okay, you'd think the ones who'd want to know would be the staff, but it was random classmates. It freaked me out a little. The cashier at McDonald's calling me by my name when I hadn't given it, and then when pressed, saying he apparently said something completely different. Oh well, not going to go on, but I was legitimately starting to lose it. It doesn't help that watching The Truman Show really mentally effed me up as a kid and gave me severe anxiety. And then having a spatula materialize only to be looked upon by the store people like I was crazy didn't quite help that mentality. Thankfully, I've since gotten slightly better since. I didn't end up buying that spatula in the end, because metal spatulas tend to scratch non-stick pans, so I went and bought a different one. This last glitch is my most interesting one, and happened like 6 months ago. I was at a beachside club with my parents. We had ordered a pizza, and we were eating it close to the restaurant next to the pool. It was nighttime. I had this weird feeling like someone came up behind me while I was sitting. I was assuming it was one of the waiters of the restaurant that we had just ordered the pizza from. I thought they were going to ask my parents something, but when neither my parents nor them said anything to each other, I finally turned to look at them after like 30 seconds of feeling them there. But when I turned, there was no one there right behind me. I even asked my parents if they had seen anyone come up behind me, but they said they hadn't. A couple of minutes later, as we were heading back home, however, I heard a strangely clear whisper in my ear, which I couldn't make any words out, but also felt directionless. Like I couldn't pinpoint exactly which direction it was coming from, despite remembering that I heard it on my right ear. Strange stuff. In any case, I have a theory about what the presence and the spatula could have been. A couple of months ago, my guardian angel came to me in a dream in the shape of the animal that, to me, represents guardianship, strength, tenderness, and care. The gorilla, if you're curious. As if attempting to warn me of something. The dream quickly devolved into something incomprehensible and chaotic, so I didn't get to hear his message, but later I investigated what that presence that left such an impact on me in my dream could have been, and I discovered that it likely was my guardian angel. It's to my belief that my guardian angel was attempting to help me in those 2 glitches, to find what I was looking for at the store by materializing it or displacing it closer to me, and to let me know when he was there looking over me when I was at the club, perhaps protecting me from whatever it was that whispered into my ear later. But that still doesn't explain the footprint, nor the extremely niche prophetic dream that I had. Anyway, sorry for rambling. I didn't mean to take up too much of your time. They really weren't that bite-sized, were they? I might have some more experiences to share, but I'm gonna have to dig deep into my brain to find them. I don't have the best memory. Thank you for reading, and take care. Hi, Raven. I'm writing in for the first time to share the 2 glitches I've experienced. Whether these glitches happened in the reality around us or in the wires of my brain, I'll leave up to you and your listeners to decide. The first experience happened about 13 years ago, right after my son was born. He was around 6 months old and was an excellent sleeper. I'd put him down for a nap in his crib and then sat down at the kitchen table to work on my scrapbook. My parents and sister were coming to visit, and I wanted to spend the time waiting for them working on my project. I had the books and pages laid out across the tabletop, pictures stacked and sorted, and different color schemes and stickers planned out. In short, it took up the whole table. My parents called to tell me that they were just under 2 hours away. I talked with them briefly and put the phone down on the table. Even all these years later, I am certain that I just put the phone down. A part of my attention realizes that it would get buried in the project, but I was too focused on what I was doing to really care or see it as a problem. My kiddos slept for a long time. I noticed that I'd been working for several hours and shuffled through some pictures and cardstock looking for my phone. I knew my parents would be calling soon to get better directions to the apartment, and was surprised they hadn't called already. I couldn't find it. I continued to look all through the dining area and kitchen, completely sure that it should be on the table. I went into the baby's room, checked every room in the apartment. I hadn't gone outside onto our balcony, but I checked there anyway. I organized my entire scrap project. I dug through the trash. I looked everywhere. My parents and sister eventually arrived a bit exasperated, and they were wondering why I hadn't been answering. I explained, and they helped me look even more. Eventually, we had to move on and enjoy the visit. After several days, I caved and just bought a new phone. This bothered me for months. I would mention it every once in a while, like when we would move a dresser or go deep into storage. Wouldn't it be wild if we found my old phone here? In my mind, I knew it was in my apartment, and there just had to be a logical explanation. When we moved out, I kept an eye out the entire time. I'd reassured myself that I would find it then, but I never did, and it's always lingered at the back of my mind. My other instance of a glitch is much more dramatic but short. I was sitting beside my bed organizing Magic the Gathering cards. I was looking at one of my decks and thinking, when a small portion of the floor, maybe a few inches, did something that made no sense whatsoever. I'll try to describe this accurately. If the entire floor was made out of little triangles all locked together, one of them turned over. I did not actually see the entire floor's triangles. It was one triangular chunk of floor, but it rotated at its point, turning one face down into the floor as its other side rotated up. It immediately sealed back into the floor. Its turning overall took maybe a second. It didn't happen in the corner of my eye. It happened in front of me. I watched it. The first story is something I know happened to me, whatever the explanation. The second, I genuinely question my sanity, but I've also never seen anything nonsensical before or since then. And thank you for listening. I have a pretty good memory. Much better than average, and that's borne out by objective measures of testing. Exams, law school, bar exam, pretty easy. Well, I'm getting older, which sucks, so I know I'm not as sharp as I used to be. But when I'm absolutely sure of something, it's still a pretty good percentage that I'm right. And I'm an attorney, so absolute surety isn't something my brain does normally for much of anything. Anyway, some time ago, linear time is my brain's Achilles heel, at least 6 months plus, and probably more, I noticed I was missing a couple car-related items on a very busy shelf. It was like some Rain-X type stuff, and another box of about the same size, 10 inches tall, 4-ish inches wide, and longer across. It's a very distinctive looking box. I knew exactly where they were. They're still there now on the top shelf of the right bookshelf. Except, suddenly, one day I noticed they were gone. I knew exactly where they were. I didn't touch them. Hardly touched those shelves, even though they do, I admit, have a lot of stuff. Not enough stuff to obscure where they were, though. I talked to my girlfriend, who didn't live with me at the time, and I asked her if she knew where they were, and she didn't. I told her what they looked like and had her look around the shelf, and she didn't find them. I looked a bit and didn't know what the hell. I could only assume it was a weird brain fart possibility and apartment weird robbery. Months later, the items were back exactly where I knew they had been. I showed my girlfriend and no clue. I gave up thinking about it, assumed my brain just really missed it somehow, a block, and that my girlfriend didn't understand my explanation. I also understand reality is weird, but the simplest explanation, yeah. Anyway, today, an hour ago, I was making some crappy soup to eat, sorry soup, and was drinking some Wegmans Fiji apple juice. Not guerrilla marketing, but decent stuff. I had just a tiny bit left and put it on the sink, straddling the metal lip of the sink that goes upward, and the level space beyond, so it was at a bit of an angle. The tiniest bit precarious, so I especially remembered where it was. I go to finish it, and it's gone. Just go, I guess I drained it without remembering, no biggie. And I finish my soup and eat most of it. I put the rest in a little container, put that in the fridge, and put the pot in the sink and fill it with water. No drink on the edge, almost no way for it to not be in my way when doing that with the pot because it's a small area. I go and watch some YouTube and then start a new season of It's Always Sunny. Not bad, though I didn't love the crossover. Can't get into Abbott, maybe I'll try again. My girlfriend comes home from workout, lives here now, and after a little talk and blah and movement, she says something like, "You didn't finish the juice?" It was by the sink. On the lip. I didn't see where it was, but she communicated clearly, and we both left stuff there before. She showed me, and the juice was still here now, with a bit to finish. I put it back in the fridge. I didn't finish it, but I am thirsty, damn it. Anyway, this one was way more solid than the last one. Same apartment, maybe 12 feet apart in different rooms separated by the same wall. I find it much harder to believe that I didn't see this juice, knowing where it was, wanting it and looking for it. And then again, somehow when using the sink. Reality is weird, and sadly ape brains are fragile and pathetic. But mine isn't quite average, and the percentages are changing for me. I can't recall if any glitches in the Matrix have actually happened to me, even though I am obsessed with this topic. But last night, I definitely experienced a glitch. It was around 8:30 p.m., and my daughter and I were in the bedroom chatting and getting her ready for bed when she stepped on something that got stuck between her toes. She said, "Ow," and I saw her stop and grab something from under her foot, and then look at me with shock and confusion. It was a tiny plastic 1-inch necklace that belonged to a Barbie-sized doll that she got last year on Christmas Day of Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. The Disney dolls you can find at Walmart based on movies that are about Barbie or Monster High doll-sized. Now, let's back up. This doll came with lots of tiny accessories, and I remember telling my daughter to be careful when she was playing because she wanted to leave the doll and her things out on the coffee table all day on Christmas, and the day after to play with and enjoy for the holiday. I remember it was the day after Christmas, she was playing with it when she changed outfits and took the necklace off, setting it right there on the coffee table next to her. Also, note that the necklace was specific, as it was black and white with the pendant of the iconic moon and curly mountaintop scene from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I was watching her play in my peripheral while watching a movie on the couch, when suddenly the necklace vanished. My daughter had only been sitting there and hadn't gotten up or moved or played with the doll since taking it off and changing the clothes. It was suddenly just gone. My daughter was upset, and so I helped her search the entire living room area. Under the coffee table, scouring the rug as I thought it might have camouflaged itself into the rug, since it was one of those colorful oriental-type rugs. We couldn't find it no matter what we did. We looked high and low, but it was nowhere. We eventually shrugged our shoulders and just moved on. As time went on, I had eventually vacuumed the rug and the whole house, so if it had fallen off the coffee table, it was surely vacuumed up and gone by now. Also, we moved a few months ago, so we had literally cleaned and emptied our last house and never found it, and never even thought about it again. It wasn't too big of a loss, to be honest. So, how could that necklace just pop up out of nowhere in her new bedroom, in a new house far from the last house, on her bedroom floor, in a standing spot that she and I have walked on and cleaned countless times already in our new house? We were both dumbfounded and we have no explanation. And it's not exactly random because we did lose it, and it was a bummer at the time. And we all know the mess of moving. So, it magically appearing like that is highly unlikely. I would have discovered it much sooner if moving helped it be found, don't you think? Anyway, it was strange. I have no other explanation other than a possible glitch. Hey Raven. I wasn't sure if I should even submit this because it makes me and another listener here, well, let's just say vulnerable or exposed, if you will. So, I'm sitting here 11 months after my first submission to your channel. It was about me seeing my doppelganger while driving one day. In the account of it, I said something like, "No cap, real life." Exactly 1 month later, another listener of yours wrote in and started off by saying, "I've only been listening to you for a couple of weeks now, but I'm really enjoying the stories." The highly sensitive empath in me sat up and paid closer attention. I thought to myself, maybe she heard my story. It came out about that time. Then she proceeds to say that she was listening to some of the stories on here and thinks that she has her own glitch story to tell now. Don't worry, I'm not going to say her name. I don't even remember what it was, but I do remember this. She said that she was asking her daughter or niece, can't recall, what some slang words like no cap meant. At that moment, the young girl totes glitches out. I mean, head going back and forth, the whole shebang. She then started repeating no cap, no cap, no cap over and over again. I recall that story. She said that she did this for a minute or so, and then she just stopped doing it and seemed to have no memory of it. Even at the time, I remember getting the chills and thinking, seriously, did she hear my experience and then have her own? No way. No cap, real life. Now, I know I don't have any proof that she even heard my experience recounted. Maybe she heard that phrase somewhere else, but that feeling at the time was so weird and so strong. And the timing was too perfect. I pretty much forgot about it altogether after that, though. Fast forward 11 months later, and I decided to go back and listen to my experience again. Now, what makes this story even weirder is that I suddenly realized that, back when Raven first read it, I had indeed listened to that experience and another I had shared over and over and over again. Trying to just come to grips with it and trying to get to a point where hearing it no longer sent cold shivers down my friggin' spine anymore. Haven't gotten there yet, by the way. I was actually gonna ask. But yeah, baby steps. I guess my question here is, was the girl glitching out and saying that over and over and over again the universe's way of portraying me realizing myself and analyzing it over and over again to try to work it all out? I'm over here tripping about this right now. What do you guys think? Am I reaching, or did my glitch just spawn another glitch? Is the universe really watching us and sometimes even mimicking us? And to respond to you, Brandy, this is getting too meta for me. I'm gonna bow out. I have no idea. That's crazy. I'm not sure what the right language is to describe this experience. I usually call it a glitch in the Matrix, so this is probably the right spot. About 3 years ago, I was hiking the Narrows in Zion. This is a long out and back hike, unless you go a very long way, in a narrow canyon with a river running through it for those who've not been. There are no side paths one can take, and because the riverbed is full of boulders, people move pretty slowly in the river, as you have to pay attention to each step. Prior to entering the canyon, you walk along the river on a paved path for maybe 100 feet. This is, of course, also how you exit. There are a few stairs here and a small beach where people sometimes stop to change shoes, etc. On my way to the river, I noticed a man wearing a shirt with the rooster from Moana, and think, hey, I just saw that shirt last week at Disneyland. He's walking with two very wet, very overweight women in spandex. It's clear they've just finished the hike, and I'm relieved because I was worried the hike might be too difficult for me. I was thinking if they can do it, then I should be just fine. To be extra clear, we pass one another, they're leaving and I'm arriving. I enter the river a few minutes later and begin making my way through the canyon. I've probably been in the water for 5 minutes or so, when, again, I pass the same man and the same two women. They're finishing the hike and are headed towards the beach and stairs to exit. I say, I just saw you 10 minutes ago. I noticed your shirt because I just saw it when I was in Disneyland last week. The three don't acknowledge me or really even look in my direction, but just keep going on their way. I'm curious on any thoughts or insights you may have. Hello, Raven. How are you? I'm doing well. Thank you, Exodus. I was listening to one of your videos while I was falling asleep, and I heard a similar story, and I just couldn't get it out of my head since I heard it, so here it is. I live in the capital city of Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, and August is a pretty rainy month for the country, and it rains basically every day. Today it rained really heavily and hailstorms happened. I called my friend after it settled down while we were walking back home, and I heard water falling on a puddle of water. I thought it was just some pipe draining the water after it had rained, but there was nothing else but the empty sky. There was construction happening next to the puddle of water, but it was too far to be something draining from there. My friend and I just stood there and stared at each other for like 10 seconds, but snapped out of it. After we finished hanging out, I had to go home, which I had to take that same route that the small, quote, rain was happening. There was still some raining just in that specific puddle of water. Am I overthinking it? Or is it something that just happens? I looked up again and looked for any specific source of that water, but there was nothing. And remember, the rain had stopped completely. The sky was dead empty. There were no clouds in sight. I just wanted to say that I appreciate you and your videos are amazing. Well, thank you. And it's really cool to have somebody from Mongolia send in his stories, so thank you again, Exodus. I was listening to one of your episodes the other day. It was the Scary Friends and Other True Stories. You listen to the podcast. You started with explaining what the episode was going to be about, mostly about weird friends, some stories that are just true scary, but other topics. You mentioned glitch stories too. I set the timer to stop playing at the end of the episode. You said something like, "Remember, you are loved, you're appreciated, you're enough," and I then fell asleep. When I woke up, my player was paused at the beginning of some other episode, which shouldn't have happened, as it was set to stop at the end. I was then trying to find that episode about scary friends. I found another one, but the one that I was meant to listen to is not there. Another time, I lost an AirPod while cycling and listening to your podcast. I heard it falling behind me. I stopped and looked for it for a good 15 minutes. It was a flat road, nowhere for it to hide, but the AirPod was not there. I then got back home and unpacked my bag, and there it was. My AirPod, in a locked bag that was under some other stuff in my bike's front basket. No way it fell from my ear and got under all the stuff into a locked bag while I was cycling. Weird things happen while listening to weird stories. Keep doing the great work, and lots of love from Europe. So that, my friends, was a collection of some Glitch in the Matrix stories. I know, it's a Thursday, and you're getting Glitch the Matrix stories. Isn't that just crazy? Whenever I ask what stories people want to hear on the channel, I always get at least one person who says more glitch stories, even though I always explicitly say, please don't say more glitch stories. People don't listen. That's a joke. So I figured while I was doing daily content like this for this section of September and October, I would go ahead and double up on the glitch content for a few weeks. So, you're going to get a Monday glitch video with the word of the week, and then you're going to get a Thursday glitch video that doesn't have the word of the week, and I don't really have anything for you to comment like that, so think of something for me to ask you to comment, and then comment it. There you go. Anyways, that was some glitch stories. Doubling up on them hopefully helps the channel do a little better this month and the next month, and hopefully it kind of gets the desire for more glitch content out of your guys' blood, brain, skin, whatever you want to say. And hopefully you all enjoy them. If you did, please do consider hitting that like button. That'd be amazing of you. I'd appreciate that tremendously. You can also subscribe to the channel if you're new and liked what you heard, and leave me a comment, like I mentioned before, about what I should be asking you guys for on these Thursday glitch videos as I do them. yeah. I don't really have any anecdotes that I want to throw in here. Nothing really special to talk about right now. It'll be September 18th whenever this goes live, so I guess I'll just throw in. I'm recording this on September 7th. Yeah, I'm way ahead right now. Super ahead, super happy with that fact. Yeah, that's about all. Anyways, friends, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. I'll see you again here very soon. No, join Patreon memberships, get early access to content like this. Being a member this month and next month is absolutely valuable. Because like I said, it's September 7th, and this goes up on September 18th, and I'm recording it right now. And I'll probably post it as early access around the 15th, because I don't want to do this one before the next glitch video, if that makes sense. But anyway, the one with the word of the week. So, yeah. So you're going to get a lot of early access right now. We have a lot of stuff up there already. Like right now, there's... Well, let's start with this morning, because the Creepy Neighbors one already went live. But this morning, there was Creepy Neighbors, 2 glitch compilations, a Paranormal Stories, and Subscriber Stories is up. Then this one will probably go up, and I'm also going to have the Cryptids of Appalachia one up here very quickly. So my point is, if you're a member right now, or on the Patreon, you're getting tons of early stuff. Just saying. Go to patreon.com/astheravendreams, or click the join button down below the video to, do those. Anyways, I hope you have a great week. Hope I see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you're the best that you can be. Don't forget it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Until next time, my friends, much love, and of course, sleep well.